Good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Deconstructing Podcast, the hottest podcast that's going on out there. Welcome, my beautiful family that's out there listening, taking their time. As you already know, when you listen to this, feel free to put that on a speaker, something where people can listen, share it, let people know what's going on, because this podcast right now, it's just on fire. Let's go. Anyways, just want to thank everybody for showing their support out there. My wonderful Deconstruct family, where we are deconstructing topics. We touch them all. We touch a little bit of everything, basically. And today we have another episode on the basis that one of my more popular, more downloaded episodes is the things that you miss in mainstream media. So this is part 2. So we're gonna touch a couple of topics out there. But once again, I want to give a shout out to people that have showed me support. You already know. I was gonna put everything in the description. Donations, please feel free to share, because the kid gotta sometimes. Hey, listen, we gotta keep the lights on, as they will say. And we got to make things happen. So this is going to be another interesting episode where you, the family that's listening to out there, we're going to touch a couple of topics that we're going to be like, okay, wow, I didn't know that. And I love it. And I love when people be like, listening to my podcast and be like, wow, I didn't know that. So as always, there's going to be a little bit of hiccups because we got a beautiful day. We got the birds chirping. As always, they might try to copyright this episode because it's like the birds are chirping. And then we're going to have, when I tell people, when we got little hiccups, because a lot of times I do these podcasts on the fly. And with the information that's in my head that I've was able to gather. So I'm just not telling people, my opinion. I was going to tell people, hey, listen, this is my point of view on that. And when I throw facts and whatnot, I'm going to definitely share that information on the description. So it's going to be a nice one. So once again, it's going to be part 2 of things that you miss in the mainstream media. And then, before I proceed, I just want to say there's a couple of people that reach out to me. And I know that there's a lot of people that are using different platforms to listen to this. YouTube, Podbean. Podbean is the platform that I'm in, which is PODBEAN. Great platform because it lets me do podcasts on the fly using an app. So that's always a great thing. But I know that a couple of people have told me, hey, I did not get a notification. I didn't know. Some people are surprised that I'm up to whatever episode. I believe it's episode 8. And I'm like, okay, just listen, just make sure, just let me know. Just make sure that even whatever platform that you use, whether it's the Podbean app, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, make sure that your notifications is on so that when I do a podcast, boom. If not, that's not working, then I don't know what to tell you. But all jokes aside, I'm doing these podcasts on a weekly basis, so make sure you tune in. I tried my best to do the podcast on a weekend and throw it out there on the weekend or whatever the case might be. So I do these things on a weekly basis. So just log on to whatever it is that you use to listen to my podcast, and then you'll check it out. Even if, let's say, your alert is not working or whatever the case might be. But let's get on with the show. Let's go. Deconstructing Topics podcast, where we deconstruct a lot of different topics. Because there's a lot of things out there that in the mainstream media. And when I say the mainstream, we talking about corporate news, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, so on and so on. There's certain things that they're not going to tell you. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that follow those medias, and they're going to gravitate to what they tell them. And one of the most interesting things is the Nordstream pipeline. So the Nordstream pipeline. And this was something where there's a pipeline on Norway that does this little thing with Russia the oil. They do a little thing going on there. Again, I'll put in the link to the description. So the pipeline, what was it, like about a year ago or something to that effect? Blew up. Boom. Okay. So my beautiful country, and I love America, but there's people that run this country like backwards. And the beautiful mainstream media. So basically, when the Nordstream pipeline happened, and the first thing they was like, oh, within the 24 to 48 hours or something to that effect, oh, Russia blew up a pipeline, and so on and so forth. So, that would get people like, okay, that is one of the reasons why we should be supporting the war in Ukraine or whatever against Russia, because Russia's bad and they blowing pipelines and they doing this. And to come and find out, Seymour Hersh, the one of the best journalists of our lifetime, he's the individual that did the, how can I say, the Vietnam thing going on, for those who remember. And if those who want to dig into the Vietnam War and what happened there, he, cover a lot of stuff there that, that's a different podcast in itself. But a great journalist who basically said, hey, listen, based on my findings, it was United States who blew up the pipeline and blame it on Russia. Interesting. So we got that little story where the mainstream ran it as, hey, Russia blew up the pipeline and so on. And now, a year later, whatever, Seymour Hersh does this journal. I'm going to link the information there. He does his great work as a journalist, independent journalist at that, to find out that United States blew up the pipeline. So, whenever you hear or have heard that story and thought that it was Russia and this is the reason why we Putin, keep saying Putin. Did it, whatever the case might be. No, it was United States once again doing that little dirty work and using the media as that mouthpiece to say, no, it was Russia, but it was United States. So we'll leave it at that. The next topic, which one is interesting? You're going to have some little planes passing by, and I try my best to sometimes like pause it or whatever. But I take it that somebody's flying somewhere, and God bless those people. I just hope that people just land safe and they make sure that they're always safe on those planes. But the next topic that we're talking about, the infamous Hunter Biden laptop. That's another story in itself. To sum it up, somewhere down the line, there was this laptop that Hunter Biden used, and there was explicit pictures and some information. We don't really know what's there. Maybe there's something crazy that's there that we need to know. But during the 2020 election, and even in the debate within Trump and Biden, Trump brought it up. Hey, the Biden, laptop and so on. And Biden and once again, the mainstream media said, no, that's not real. That's a Russia. How can I say, made up story? Russia's behind it. There's no such thing as a Hunter Biden's laptop, and so on. So during that time, the mainstream it's making sure that they protecting Biden, and my understanding is that the FBI have reached out to Facebook and Twitter to kind of make sure that the story doesn't go and pick up steam. Because sometimes, you got to keep in mind when it comes to voting. Sometimes there's little things that voters, even if some voters don't vote for policies, they might, that argument of the lesser of two evil. And I always said, don't use that argument with me because they're both evil. I'm not sure why one would stood so low to say, oh, I got to pick this person because they're lesser evil. No, they're both evil because the Biden family, Trump, Clinton, all those people, at the end of the day, if something crazy happened with their family or something, guess what? They're good. If the same thing that happened to their families, they get caught with something legal. If it happened to you, regular person out there that's voting, if it would happen to you, they will make sure that you get arrested in due time. But not these people. So that's why I bring it up. Like, Don't think like you voting for the lesser evil is a good thing, because at the end of the day, they good. You're not. So when it comes to the Hunter Biden laptop situation, some people might say, hey, it's just an FYI. Hunter Biden has some dealings in Ukraine or something to that effect. Again, whatever it is that's in the laptop, hey. But the fact is that the media hit this story and claiming that Russia created this story at the end of the day, 2 years later. Even now. I think NBC had a little report like, oh, well, after all, there was a Hunter Biden, laptop. And it's funny because Trump was being crucified for it. Like, oh, look at Trump. Look, he's lying. And, he's using Russia to make up a story. And, there's no such thing as a make-up story. It's a true story. So a lot of people was like, okay, well, the Hunter Biden laptop now is coming up because, people at the end of the day, stuff, how can I say? You can never go hidden. Whatever crazy dark story or whatever it is, it can never be something where, no one, it's always going to be left in a secret in a closet. Somewhere down the line, it's going to come up. You already know how that life is. It's, you can never live life, in the dark. Something is going to come up in the light. And that's the case with the Hunter Biden's laptop. Once again, the media. And some people, like I said, some voters might say, hey, listen, wow, I want to know about this Hunter laptop. Because now if I'm voting for Biden, right, then your mindset would be like, okay, Biden, I need to know what's going on here. If your son, unfortunately, who, how can I say, was up to no good, for the case might be, if you're doing something weird and funny, I need to know, because then, hey, listen, you're the president. I'm voting for you. That means that you should stand with certain standards. And if it's okay, and I understand that he's a father, he's going to go all out to protect his son. But listen, I'm the voter. I'm putting you in power. Why is it that you're hiding this information in the mainstream, and even the FBI colluded with Twitter and Facebook to make sure that this information is not out there like that? I mean, they can't hide it now. So I just want to touch bases on that Hunter Biden laptop situation. At the end, we don't know what's in that laptop. But just the fact that, hey, people went after Trump, the View, all these shows, the Young Turks, and all these, liberal media, hey, Trump is lying and Trump is this. And now it comes out that, once again, Trump said something about a laptop, the Biden laptop, and it came out to be true when he was told that he's making stuff up. So that's an interesting one, to say the least. The next one is interesting because a lot of people don't know this one. A lot of people. And this one, it kind of bugs me out a bit. How, in regards to Ukraine and the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, it's interesting because back in 2018-19, as far as I recall, I remember the mainstream media, the Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Fox, you had these organizations. I remember a couple of these independent liberal organizations. And I just want to keep in mind, hey, listen, I'm just addressing that side of right now. Because I'm fair game when it comes to attacking. I'm fair game. But it's, this media, and it's funny how they condition your mind for you to forget something. And they were one of the first people that called Zelensky the mini Trump. Because a lot of people don't know, Zelensky was a comedian. And he ran his own, how can I say, media company. And, he had money. He had some support. He had some followers there. And next thing, he becomes the president of Ukraine. So it's interesting how this same media is covering for Biden and the military complex to give them $100 billion for whatever it is to fight Russia. But then these are the first people that were calling him a mini Trump. I think anytime they use the word Trump, you're supposed to go on a rampage like, well, we need to cancel, blah, 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 blah. well, you call Zelensky mini Trump because he was a reality star, something to that effect. And it's funny because he plays the part everywhere he goes. Hey, this guy's a great actor. But one of the interesting thing about that situation is that there's a battalion called the Azov. That didn't sound right. Wait a minute. Azov Battalion. Yeah, let me spell it for you because a lot of people be like, wait, what? It's Azov, Azov Battalion. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. So, what's the big deal about that? These are pro-Nazi, you know, sympathizers is what they call it. They love the Nazi. They got this insignia with the double S on their thing, and it's funny because the mainstream media, once again, controlled by the military complex. You don't hear this story on the mainstream. A lot of people right now that are listening to this are gonna be like, "What?" So we are supporting Nazis? Wait, I could have sworn that people were calling Trump a Nazi and all this, but yeah, we sending billions of dollars to this battalion. And I heard some people and I've seen some people in mainstream or even independent liberal who might say, well, it's only like about a couple of hundreds, couple of thousand people, but who wouldn't have a Nazi sympathizer in their army or whatever? I'm like, okay. The issue is with that is that we probably talking about 30% of the army that's in Ukraine that are Nazi sympathizers. And yeah, that's one of those interesting things because I'm going to get on to the next one because they have a little bit to do with one of the Democrat presidential candidates that we have for 2024, Robert Kennedy Jr. So for those, I think with Robert Kennedy, I could do my own podcast with that situation. But just, how can I say? He was in a interview in the show Breaking Point, where one of the hosts, Crystal Ball, was asking him these questions. And for the most part, I enjoy Breaking Point because they're independent media, but sometimes I'm like, okay, this is what happens with some of these independent medias. They take monies, they start getting monies, and they're getting money from these big donors. So my understanding with Robert Kennedy, he's not too much of a big pharma type of dude, vaccine, and he might have written some articles about how vaccines lead to autism, and unfortunately, that's not a sexy thing, to go against big pharma or to go and say anything like that. And he was a big, like when it comes to the COVID vaccine, he was like, wait a minute, we shouldn't. How can I say? He was not against the vaccine. He's more or less against the mandate. And I always say, when you are against big pharma, doesn't mean that you're anti-vax. So one of the things that's interesting is that in that interview, one of the whole Crystal Ball was asking about his vaccine stance, and I'm like, yo, I think she's just getting paid from big pharma, at this point. Supposed to be independent, but she has had a history of standing with these corporate big news, and a lot of these independent people at one point did some work with big companies, big corporate news, but they left because, hey, listen, what your views and your standards and whatever your belief or whatever it is, it's against what I believe. When you're propping up these fake news over and over and over, trying to divide this country, there's a lot of great independent, or there's a lot of journalists that become independent that says, hey, listen, I'm not with that program at all. I'm good. So in regards to the backlash that Robert Kennedy Jr. took, as he's right now probably trending like 20 to 25%. Same person that the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, said, you know what, we're not going to do debates. He will kill Biden. He will kill Biden. And if he was in a stage of debating Biden, because he is the leading, how can I say, when it comes to, besides Biden, but he is the second in terms of the Democratic part, which I'm not too fan. I wish he was running on an independent ticket, but we already know where the Kennedys fall into place in terms of the Democratic Party. It's a whole different story. Like I said, different podcast. But the fact that people went after him, like, anti-vax, and you see a lot of, liberal people with anti-vax, and I said, that's funny. Because that same energy, and I'm saying to myself, that same energy, why are you not bringing that same energy to this military complex, this administration that's sending $100 billion to Ukraine, and a lot of that money is going to this Azov battalion that, for the most part, they're doing what the Nazis did. They did that salute with the right hand or whatever it is that they do over there, and then that's that energy. And I'm saying to myself, wow. See how these parrots and these echo chamber people and these sellouts and bootlickers, bootlickers, wow. They've been put up, they put them in these, the social media spaces, the Facebook, the Twitters, to attack Robert Kennedy Jr., but yet you can't attack the current administration on the billions of dollars that's being sent out to this Azov battalion, Nazi battalion. You're talking about maybe close to 30% of your army. So you fund these people and you give them so much money. Let's just say they beat Russia. Hey, Russia. Who knows that with that money that you send with the armament and all that, who knows that they start, doing a little kind of Nazi thing going on, 2.0. Hey, listen, it's just that thing. Who knows? But, yep, that's what's going on. My beautiful family, once again, thank you for taking your time. Oh, I feel good about this episode, too. I feel good about every episode, but there's certain episodes that, I feel like I'm just saving a mind and saving a life. That's the best way to put it. And when you guys done with all listening to this episode, feel free to share. For those people that are still there being corrupted by these people that are put in front of you and still trying to open this app, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and they still looking for news in those places. I'm like, no. Nah. There's other avenues that we could go. There's other places that we could get our news independently. Independent journalists, which I always support. But once again, much love. Enjoy this episode. Please share, rewind it, do all that good stuff, because this is D-constructed Topics podcast, and we on some monster right now. We right now, we just evolving and like a transformer, like call me Optimus. Deconstructing Topics. Let's go. Well, much love. Everybody be safe. Take care. And I'm out. Peace. I'm out.